Hey, how you doing? Andrew DeStefano again from Putnam County Crime Analysis. Today I've decided to do something just a little bit different. It is an analysis of sorts, but it's going to be an analysis about the 2017 Putnam County race for a sheriff when myself and my campaign team tried to get on the ballot, the Republican ballot for Putnam County Sheriff, and we were prevented from doing so. There's a lot of what they call inside baseball here, the game within the game. So I kind of wanted to, I figured it would be nice to do a little video on that since I do have the documentation on it. So without further ado, now what I have on here is the designating petition. As you know, in New York State, you get one of these petitions here. This one is enough room for 5 signatures. Usually they're 5, 10, or 15. 15 is usually the ones you get at the Board of Elections. This one is 5. I printed it off online. The only thing that you don't fill out, obviously, is in the middle here. But I'm going to be breaking down this designating petition. So, what I did was I have the designating petition again, except I broke it down into 5 sections. And I'm going to explain what you have to do and what your responsibilities are in each of the sections. The person that's collecting the signatures is called the witness, okay? And in section 1, you put the name of the candidate. So I'm going to use my name because this is who we're talking about from 2017. So in name of candidate box, you put Andrew DeStefano. The public office sought is Putnam County Sheriff. And then residence address is my home address. All right. And so box number 2, section number 2, is the name of the signer. All right. So anybody, the witness or the signer, could put the date and the signer's residence and the signer's town. Anyone can put that. The signer only signs it, and then the printing of the signer's name is optional. You don't have to print the name, and it's not recommended because it's just one more thing you have to do. In box number 3, you have the statement of the witness. Again, the witness is the person that's collecting the signatures. So I, Andrew DeStefano, you state that you're a member of the Republican Party. And any member of the Republican Party in New York State is eligible to collect signatures for Putnam County Sheriff. And then you reside at, you put your address, and then Paterson, New York, 12563. At that point, you're covered. You're covered for the rest of the petition. You don't have to put anything else as it pertains to your address. All right. Then and it's still in section number 3. Right below that, it asks how many signatures do you have. Very, very important, because if you leave that blank accidentally or otherwise, then the entire petition is invalidated. If you overstate how many signatures you have, in other words, you say that you wrote you have 9 signatures and you really have 7, then the entire petition is invalidated. However, if you understate that you have the amount of signatures you have, so in other words, if you say you have 7 but you really have 9, then you will get credit for the first 7 signatures. It doesn't mean the first 7 signatures will be counted, but what it means that the first 7 signatures are at least in play. They're available to be judged. Okay, that is also very important. That distinction between overstating how many and understating how many. Then just below that, then you, I kind of cut it off a little bit too early, but you have the signature of the witness and the date. That's still in my box number 3. Box 4 is witness identification information section. In the witness identification information section, all they're asking for is the town and the county, and that's it. In box number 5, it doesn't really apply most of the time. They're asking for notary public or commissioner of deeds. So what I did was I took this designating petition and I blew it up so that you could better see section number 4. And the reason why is because, as I said earlier, section 4 is really at the heart of where the problem was. Because Section 4, the Witness Identification Information section, asking for town and county, because that section on my petitions wasn't filled out most of the time, the elections commissioner invalidated 600 Republican signatures. 600 people that were registered Republicans on the list, their signatures, 600 of them, more than 600, were invalidated because that section was not filled out, the Witness Identification Information section. So I blew it up just so you can see it. It just calls for town and county. All right. Now the way you get on the ballot is the incumbent and the challenger both go to the county convention. The county committee, the Republican committee, has approximately 230 members. The incumbent and the challenger both go in front of the committee. They both state their piece, what they're going to do, plans, etc. Then the committee votes, and then whoever the committee decides to support, the committee goes out and gets that person's signatures. Almost always they go with the incumbent. Okay, now that's on paper. The way it works realistically is that the county Republican committee doesn't even get a quorum of nowhere near a quorum actually, if you think about it. Out of 220, 230 members of the Putnam County Republican Committee, they get maybe 15%, maybe 20% to show up. 20% maximum will show up. So there's nowhere near a quorum. But what happens oftentimes is that the town chair, in our case, in Putnam's case, the town chair, the town seats chair, the Carmel chair was also the county chair. So he would collect, instead of people showing up to the convention, he would collect people's proxies, and then he would have their vote, excuse me, he would have their vote at the convention. A lot of these folks don't even know they're on the committee. A lot of these folks have never been to a committee convention. I've never seen them. In the 15 years I was on the Patterson committee, I've never seen them at a convention, ever, not once. Their purpose really is to be put on the town committee. Then the town chair has their proxy, has their vote, and then that gives the town chairman a lot of power, and the county chairman a lot of power when he goes into the convention. In this race, the county chairman, who is also the town of Carmel chairman, who's also the elections commissioner, he voted 38 times. He had 38 votes in this race. I have every name and everything written down. He voted 38 times. That's the system that we have in Putnam County. One person, it's not one person, one vote. You have the town chairs collecting all these proxies. A lot of times the person has no idea about it, and then they take these proxies into the county convention, and they have the power to put all these votes. So, that's why I had to laugh afterwards after this convention, when the incumbent sheriff tells the newspaper, "Oh, the county committee supported me solidly, and I'm so proud." No, they didn't. A bunch of proxies supported you. That's how the system has always worked. Thankfully, in the last 3 or 4 months, we've had some new people installed, some good people, and it looks like it's they're on the way to being cleaned up. At least the first step in fixing a problem is admitting you have a problem. And for a decade and a half, 2 decades, we would not admit that we had a problem. Everything was wonderful, unless you're someone like me who gets hurt. Okay, so that's how you get on the ballot. You go in front of the committee, or what happens is if you don't get the committee vote, then you have the right to get a team together and then get your own signatures. That's what we did. That's how we attempted to get on the ballot, and that's how the Supreme Court judge ultimately ruled to put me on the ballot. In this race, in this system really, we had to collect between 1,000 and 1,100 signatures, and we collected 1,517 signatures. That is a very, very high amount of signatures. I had great people on the team. We did this for 37 straight days from the first morning of getting eligible to get signatures until 4 o'clock of the day they were due. That's how hard we worked. You know, the elections commissioner was in the newspaper talking about how sloppy my petitions are. The elections commissioner has never collected petitions. He doesn't know what it's like to collect petitions. We were out there in all kinds of rainstorms, all kinds of windstorms. We had several nights we're out there going door to door, terrible thunderstorms. You know, petitions are getting wet and everything. That's a sign of progress. That's a sign of hard work. That's the sign of somebody who really, really wants it. He's never done it. No one has ever done what we did. And that's the reason why they didn't recognize hard work when they saw it. You know, the average person goes out and gets 5 signatures, 10 signatures. We went out and got 1,517 signatures in all types of weather, all hours of the day and night. I mean, I used to get texts. You know, one time I got a text, I remember. It was 12 midnight. So-and-so is at Kelly's restaurant right now. He's willing to sign your petition if you can get here in 15 minutes. I was there in 10 minutes. Who else does that? Who else does that? You know, and that's what makes this story all the more outrageous. You know, just throwing signatures out like they were garbage. So in the previous screen, I showed you the blow up of the designating petition. And I showed you box number 4, where it talks about the witness identification section, asking for town and county of the witness, right? Witness identification section, asking for town and county. Well, if you want to know if you have to fill that line out, asking for town and county, if you want to know, then you go to the election law. You want to know what the election law is? Go to the election law. What you see on the screen right here is page 29 of the election law. And you can't argue against it. The appellate division has reiterated that where the witness failed to provide their town or city of residence, such an error is not a fatal defect. Was that so hard? Want me to read it again? The appellate division has reiterated that where the witness failed to provide their town or city of residence, such an error is not a fatal defect. In other words, you don't have to fill out the witness identification information section. And the reason why you don't is because you write it in 2 other places on the ballot, on that petition. So why would you have to write it a 3rd time? That's the court's rulings. And those court's rulings are built into this page 29 right here. You know, the appellate division has reiterated that where the witness failed to provide their town or city of residence, such an error is not a fatal defect. The elections commissioner voted to throw out over 600 signatures based on the fact that the witness ID line wasn't filled out. I mean, whatever happened later in court and people getting served late, we never should have been in court in the first place. Those petitions never should have been invalidated. He's saying that the 600 times that my petitions are no good because the witness ID line wasn't filled out. I didn't put town and county. Again, it's the 4th time. The appellate division has reiterated that where the witness failed to provide their town or city of residence, such an error is not a fatal defect. Okay. Now, I'm going to explain this later again, but the way it generally works when somebody presents a challenge against your petitions, you hand them into the Board of Elections. Somebody presents a challenge against your petitions. 4 different people presented challenges against they were coming after me hard. The Democrats wanted me off the ballot because they knew that their candidate was going to beat the incumbent, which he did. And the elections commissioner wanted me off the ballot because he knew that I was going to beat his incumbent. It's just that simple. So 600 signatures never should have been invalidated in the first place. All right. So when they present the challenge, then the Board of Elections rules on the challenge at a challenge hearing, like 2 weeks later. I'm not allowed to speak or interject or participate in the challenge hearing. I can only sit there and listen. Now, for a petition, for a challenge to be upheld, right? For a page of signatures or even an individual signature to be invalidated, to be thrown out, to uphold the challenge, in other words, both elections commissioners have to agree. If one elections commissioner says, no, it stays, and one commissioner says it goes, then it stays, and the challenge is voted down. Okay, both have to agree. So you can say to me, all right, Andrew, well, all right, the elections commissioner of the Republican Party was gunning for you, but what about the elections commissioner of the Democrat Party? Well, thanks for asking. All right, that's a great question. Let me tell you about the elections commissioner for the Democrat Party. I've always believed her heart was in the right place. However, she was in need of serious retraining. Okay. During this, when it would come to a page where the challenge was the witness ID line wasn't filled out, the Republican elections commissioner would vote to throw out the page based on the fact that the witness ID line wasn't filled out. The Democrat commissioner would turn to me, physically turn to me, and she'd say, oh, no, I have no problem. I have no problem with the witness ID line not being filled out. She says, I'm invalidating it. I'm voting to invalidate it because you didn't put the election district in the line above it. So she's voting to invalidate the petition, but for a totally separate reason other than the challenge. One commissioner is voting to overturn it because the witness ID line isn't filled out. The other elections commissioners voting to invalidate it because we didn't include the election district in the line above it. First of all, the line above it says place of residence. It says nothing about election district. That's number one. Number two, the elections commissioners are only ruling on the challenge. They're not looking for, things willy-nilly on their own. Sua sponte. They're looking for things. They're looking for whatever the challenge says. The challenge was the witness ID line is not filled out. Okay? Yay or nay? You can't go looking at other things and then decide to, I'm not gonna go with the challenge, but I'm gonna throw it out for another reason. It doesn't work that way. But that's exactly what happened. That's exactly what happened. And that happened over 400 times. Okay, so as if that wasn't clear enough or bad enough, as I said, as you saw now, page 29 of the New York State election law lays out in the witness identification information section that you don't have to fill out that section that calls for town and county. You laid it out. You saw it right there. It was laid out in plain English. And yet the Board of Elections, led by the previous administration, threw out 600 signatures because that line wasn't filled out. So if you need to know what the case is, as if that wasn't bad enough, you go to the case. The name of the case is Berkowitz v. Harrington. Okay, and what does Berkowitz v. Harrington say? I got this on Google, by the way. We conclude that the failure of the subscribing witness to include the town or city and county in the witness identification information section of the petition is insufficient to warrant invalidation of the petition. Was that so hard to understand? The Board of Elections, led by the Republican commissioner at that time, threw out 600 signatures based on the fact that he said you had to fill out the witness identification information section. Well, again, let's go to Berkowitz v. Harrington. We conclude that the failure of the subscribing witness to include the town or city and the county in the witness identification information section of the petition is insufficient to warrant invalidation of the petition. So why did he invalidate 600 petitions? Why? Because it was me. Because they needed to protect their weak incumbent. because they needed him to do one more term so that that incumbent could then appoint their boy as the undersheriff. He's going to serve 4 years as undersheriff, and then in 2021 he would be the natural selection for the Republican Party to run as a sheriff. That was the whole plan. Unfortunately, I don't care what anyone's plans are. That is very dishonest. That is very unethical, and yet that's very much what they did. And I know people that were present at the meeting. Let's say, I asked around at the time, and it was denied. No, 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 no. I'm not going to be the undersheriff. No, no, no. This is not going to happen. That's not going to happen. I know people that were present at the meeting. So, but anyway, again, we conclude the failure of the subscribing witness to include the town or city and county in the witness identification information section of the petition is insufficient to warrant invalidation of the petition. So, 600 signatures down the drain. Okay, and I did the same thing I did a moment ago. I blew it up so you can read it better. We conclude that the failure of the subscribing witness to include the town or city and the county in the witness identification information section of the petition is insufficient to warrant invalidation of the petition. Now, why did the courts rule this way? They ruled this way because in 2 other places on the same petition, you already write your address. Why do you got to keep writing your town and county? Why? If I write my address in Paterson, New York, 12563, why do I have to keep writing it and writing it and writing it and writing? Why? How many times am I supposed to write it? That's what the court found. And you know when they found this? They found this in the Election Law Reform Act of 1992. When did this happen? 2017. 1992, 2017. 25 years ago. At that time, now it's more. Now it's 32 years. 25 years ago. So at this point, when I submitted my petitions in 2017, you hadn't had to fill out the witness identification information section for 25 years. 25 years. So how did the Board of Elections not know? How is this an honest mistake? Answer, it's not. It's not. They wanted anything they could do, even if they had to be dishonest about it. They wanted anything they could do to get me into court. Once they could get me into court, they own me. All right? Which, as I'm going to show you. Okay, well, I did the same thing as before. I blew up the election law this time, so you could read it better. The Appellate Division has reiterated that where the witness failed to provide their town or city of residence, such an error is not a fatal defect. And I'm blowing it up not only so you could see it, but that you could just, digest it and understand it. Because this is Putnam County, and in Putnam County, what they'll say is, well, no, this is he's a good man. Why are you attacking him? Why are you saying bad things? Why am I saying bad things? Why am I attacking him? Don't tell me what your opinion is. What does the law say? What does page 29 of the election law say? What does it say? The Appellate Division has reiterated that where the witness failed to provide their town or city of residence, such an error is not a fatal defect. So I don't want people telling me how they feel. Just tell me what the document says. That's how, and yet in 2017, there were actually people, some of whom I thought were friends, oh, you can't fight this. They have to be able to do whatever they want to you, and you just sit there and take it. Well, you know what? The law was totally on my side. These petitions never should have been thrown out. This was very dishonest, very dishonest. I got perfect signatures and I still can't get on the ballot. That's not right. Okay, so here it explains the Election Reform Act of 1992, which I guess the Board of Elections didn't know about that. I guess they didn't know that 25 years before, the witness identification information section got invalidated. It got vitiated. It got taken away. However, the Election Reform Act of 1992, which became effective January 1st, 1993, requires only that an attesting witness furnish a residence and entirely eliminated any requirement for the inclusion in the statement of witness of the town or city or other political subdivision. So in that box number 3 where it says place of residence, all you got to do is write your address and you're good. Why would you have to write your town and county for the 3rd time? You know, I mean, and so they call it redundancy. And the Election Reform Act of 1992, they took that away. So as I was explaining before, we went to the challenge hearing. Okay, challenge hearing was July 27th, 2017. It's a hearing that you're not allowed to participate in or interject or say anything. You can just sit there and watch it and listen. We were not permitted to tape record either, but that's a different story. The Elections Commissioner invalidated over 600 signatures, valid Republican, registered Republican signatures. He invalidated over 600 valid Republican signatures because the witness ID line was not filled out. Well, as we saw in 3 different pieces of evidence, you don't have to fill it out, and you haven't had to fill it out since 1993. Again, the challenge hearing was in 2017, 25 years later, and that was what they were hanging their hat on. I didn't fill out the witness ID line. I didn't fill it out because they didn't have to, okay? So what happens is at that point, when I submit my petitions, the 4 separate people submitted challenges against me. There was Bob Buckley and one other, and then Jim Borkowski and one other. So there was 4 separate people, 2 Republican, 2 Democrat. Okay, based upon those challenges, that's what the Elections Commissioner was throwing out the signatures for. All right. So again, we lost the challenge. I file a lawsuit. When I filed a lawsuit in Putnam County, you don't go right to court and submit the suit. You have to go to the county clerk's office and submit the lawsuit. I don't know why, but that's the way you got to do it. So we went to the county clerk's office, Putnam County. We submitted the lawsuit. This was at 4:20 p.m. At 4:30 p.m., those papers, that lawsuit, was in the judge's hands. She personally handed it to the judge. And he wanted it too. It was like he was waiting for it. All right. In election law is very, very time sensitive. You know, it's not like you have to wait all these days. And when you file your lawsuit, it has to be served on the other party the same day. Not decided. Nobody's deciding anything. It just has to be served the same day. Service takes anywhere between 30 and 45 seconds. That's how quick service is today, because you don't serve somebody physically anymore. You serve them electronically. It can be by email. It can be by fax. You know, they have various ways of serving people, all electronic. All the judge had to do was order service. It would have taken him 30 seconds. The judge held on to the papers, not 1 day, not 2 days, not 3 days, 4 days. The judge held on to the papers for 4 days. You heard that right. For 4 days. The county judge held on to those papers. We start calling Westchester County, which is the 9th and 10th Judicial District, the chief judge. We start complaining. Where's these papers? Is this judge ever going to rule on? Is he ever going to serve us or what? The chief judge, sends a Supreme Court judge from Westchester up to Putnam County to find out what the hell is going on. He gets there and he sees that the judge has held these papers for 4 days and has done nothing with them. 4 days. This judge is not only a lawyer, not only a judge, but he's an elected official. He runs for office himself. He knows about election law. And he knows how tight the service schedule is. Holding papers for 4 days. So this Supreme Court judge, Judge Marks is his name if you want to check around. Judge Marks comes up to Westchester County, comes up from Westchester to Putnam County. And he sees these papers. He says, "What the hell are you doing with these? What the hell is going on?" And this was said to us later on. So Judge Marks said, "You know what? Forget it." He took the papers himself. Took it himself. And then he just ordered service. Took 30 seconds. You're served, you're served, you're served. That's it. Done. However, the damage was already done. The Board of Elections got served late, and they knew it. Okay? The judge took about 2 weeks to look at our signatures. And then in the interim, me and my campaign team, we're campaigning every day because we know we're on the ballot. This is what came out. The judge ruled. DeStefano ordered back on sheriff's ballot by judge. Supreme Court Judge Marks ordered us back on the ballot. Once that judge ordered me back on that ballot, should have ended right there. We had good signatures. We should have been left on the ballot, should have been left alone. Never should have been harassed like this. This was outright harassment. So what happens now? The elections commissioner, within 17 minutes, orders an appeal to be filed, even though he denies it came from him. I know for a fact it did. 17 minutes later, the appeal is already written and filed. They had it written and ready to go. Judge Marks' decision about putting me back on the ballot, that came in at 4:58. I remember we were like waiting on pins and needles, waiting for this decision to come down, right? And then we're reading it and we started screaming, "We're on the ballot." 17 minutes later, your Board of Elections files an appeal. It's already written up. Now, you would think that if you just made 600 decisions about the witness ID line, you would think that your appeal would be based on that, right? Hey, let me defend myself in this hearing. No, you have to fill out the witness ID line. I've been doing this. How many years I've been doing this? That's all I ever heard. I've been doing this 30 years. I'm doing this 20 years. I know what I'm doing. Well, you're doing this 30 years. Why don't you defend yourself in the appeal and tell us how we have to fill out the witness ID line? No. Their appeal said nothing about the witness ID line, about signatures, about elections, about petitions, nothing. The appeal was based on one thing and one thing only. We got served late. Well, yeah, you got served late because your judge held on to the papers for 4 days. And that was not an accident. Your judge held on to the papers for 4 days. Okay? And again, never made any effort at all to defend themselves. Board of Elections made no effort at all to defend themselves about the 600 and something decisions they made about the witness ID line. It was all based on one thing. It was all based on the fact that they got served 1 day late. And meanwhile, it's filed 17 minutes later. 4:58 it comes in. By 5:15, it's filed. And it's written up, and it's a whole thick stack, everything. It's already written. It was like a big joke. It was a big joke to these people. This is my life here, and this is a joke, and I'm not supposed to fight back. This is what people I thought were friends, but I believe me, in this place I watch my back. I do, because these same people had the attitude, "Oh no, these are good people. You can't say anything. These are good people." Well, you know what? I'm a pretty decent person too. They never should have done what they did, But that's what happened. The judge ordered me on the ballot, and then 17 minutes later, they had their appeal filed. Very very disappointing. So I'll tell you why in a second. Why I have this copy of this FOIL request on the screen. But as I said a moment ago, um, the Putnam County Board of Elections had they had their appeal filed in 17 minutes. 4:58, Judge Marks' decision to put me back on the ballot came down. Within 17 minutes, they had their appeal written, researched everything, filed, and that was it. So, I mean, it was obviously, this was all part of their plan, get me into court so that their judge can hold on to the papers for 4 days or whatever he's going to do. All he had to do was get past the one day, and we were already done. So the reason why I put this on the screen is because sometime around this time, after it was all over, the county commissioner told a friend of mine, and it's a friend enough where he knows that if he tells him something about me, he knows this person's going to come back and tell me. One of those deals, So he tells my friend, oh, I feel really bad. I didn't want to file the appeal, but New York State Board of Elections told me to file the appeal. I mean, I've heard some ridiculous things in my life. That was ridiculous. But that's what he said. That's his word. I'm going to take him at it. All right. I drove up to Albany. I went to the Board of Elections. I drove to Albany, 90-something miles away. And I drive all the way up there to file a FOIL request, Freedom of Information Law. And I wanted a copy of the order from the New York State Board of Elections ordering the Putnam County Board of Elections to file an appeal in a losing court case. And I referenced the case. And the lady behind the desk, she says, hold on a second. She gets on the phone, and then a Board of Elections attorney, up in Albany now, an attorney comes out and says, what are you looking for? And I have this attorney's business card. She says, what are you looking for? And I told her what I'm looking for. And she says, we'll look for it, but I can tell you right now, it doesn't exist. We don't have the authority to be telling county boards of election, what cases to file appeals on and stuff like that. We don't have the authority. I mean, the whole request is ridiculous. And I said, well, yeah, I know, because the allegation is ridiculous that New York State Board of Elections ordered Putnam to file the appeal. So anyway, the end result of this Freedom of Information Law request, we have conducted a diligent search of our records and found none would be responsive to your request. In other words, I was lied to, okay? In any event, I had to go down to, when they filed their 17-minute appeal, you had to go down to Brooklyn, 45 Monroe Street. And unfortunately, the second department is extremely perfunctory. They only go on procedures. They're very procedural. And what they ruled was that they didn't say Judge Marks was wrong. Absolutely not. What they said was that Judge Marks should not have reviewed it in the first place because the Board of Elections had gotten served 1 day late. See, the damage, like I said, the damage was already done. What I liked about Judge Marks's decision was that he didn't just go by the witness ID line and overturn it on that basis, just on Board of Elections gross incompetence. He also did a ton of research to the point where based on his ruling, that should have been a precedent case. This should have been a precedent case. It should have totally eliminated the witness ID line. Totally. In other words, anything going after this decision, there's no more witness ID line, because the rules that the witness ID line was relying on were thrown out years ago. And that's the reason why I felt that he was going to be successful in upholding this ruling. Okay, in any event, when I went to second department in Brooklyn, it's at 45 Monroe Street, I think it is, and I took the subway train there. got off the subway, and you go over to where the staircase is to go onto the street. And it's a one very, very steep set of stairs that go upstairs. And I didn't see any elevator or escalator. And I'm standing next to a woman, an African-American woman, and she has a legal briefcase. It looked almost like a suitcase. It was one of the big ones and square, but very, very big and heavy. And she looked up at these stairs and she was like, oh my gosh. So I asked her, would you like me to carry your bag? And she says, oh my God, could you? So I carried her bag up all these steps, and then I waited for her at the top of the steps. And when she arrived, I gave her the bag, and she thanked me and have a nice day. Then in the street, while believe she had stopped to get coffee and a bagel at one of those bagel stands, I'm walking around the street in my Google Maps looking for 45 Monroe Street. I don't know where it is. I've never been there before. And I'd walk half a block this way and a quarter block that way and a quarter of a block this way and half a block that way. And she sees me after she gets her coffee and coffee and bagel. And she says, second department? And I said, yes. And she says, follow me. So we start talking, and she's on the way there. And she says, I asked her, so what case brings you there? And she tells me about a case. She says that she's representing the Westchester County Board of Elections, and she's an attorney. I don't know if she was a full-time employee for the Westchester County Board of Elections, or if she was a contractor of counsel, just hired for the day. I don't recall that. Although I do have her card too, but I don't recall if she was of counsel or an employee. But she told me what her case was, and I said, "Well, I've been doing a lot of research in the last few days, and you have a good case, and your defendant has no right to be on the ballot for X amount of reasons." And she said to me, "Wow, you know the election law pretty good." She said, "You're right. I anticipate winning." And then she says to me, "What case are you here on?" And I said, "I'm here on." I said, "Well, I'm from Putnam County, and I'm running for Putnam County Sheriff. My name is Andrew DeStefano." Boom! She stops in full stride. Stops like she hit the brakes. She turns to me, looking sideways. She goes, "You're Andrew DeStefano?" And I said, "Yeah, why?" She says to me, "Oh my God," she goes, "they are gunning for you." And I said, "Who is gunning for me?" She said, "The Putnam County Board of Elections." She said, you don't think we hear things down in Westchester?" And she said that, she goes, "Yeah, they even called us a couple of times asking for advice on a couple of things." She said, they are trying to find anything they can to get you off that ballot. Okay? This is the Putnam County Board of Elections, and this is what an attorney from Westchester is saying. You know what I'm saying? Like, Board of Elections is not supposed to be taking a side in this thing, and they did. And I'm not supposed to be able to fight back. So, but in any event, the second department ruled against me because, like I said, they never said Judge Marks was wrong. Absolutely not. He was totally right. They said he shouldn't have looked at the papers in the first place. That was the decision. Okay. Now, why were they so intent? Why was the Board of Elections so intent and so desperate to get this done? Because usually that's not how it usually works, even with an incumbent. They usually don't stand in the way of people like they were doing to me. Well, the plan was that the incumbent sheriff was going to do one more term, one more 4-year term. He's supposed to win, and when he wins, he's going to name a certain someone, as the undersheriff. And then that undersheriff does 4 years as undersheriff, and then in 2021, he, not me, he will be the natural heir apparent to the reign, to the throne of sheriff in Putnam County. And before anybody starts lying about it, no, that's not the way it was. That's not what was going to happen. I know people that were present at the meeting. I spoke to people who were present at the meeting. Understand what I'm saying here. I spoke with people who were present at the meeting. That's exactly what the plan was. That's why they were so desperate to keep the undersheriff in play. Okay? So we had a decision to make. Do I do a write-in campaign? Do I not? And when I say campaign, what I mean is just, when I see people here and there, just ask them to write my name in. I'm not going to spend any money. I'm not going to, do anything as far as that goes. But just to prove a point that I do have support in this county. Okay. So we decided, you know what, we're going to do it. And pretty much what drove me over was the fact that early on, before any of this happened, before the first signature was gotten, the elections commissioner made some really nasty, nasty comments in the newspaper about me. Well, to not only the newspaper but to others. He told a group of people that he would rather see a Democrat sheriff than me. He'd rather have a Democrat as the sheriff than me. And, I'll tell you in a few minutes, but when I was like, wow. I mean, that's incredible. With all his battles with the former senator and everything else, and I was always backing him up, always had his back, always defended him. And look what happened, So, zero loyalty in this county. Zero. Okay? Everybody, you have to really protect yourself because, that's the way it is. So I decided, you know what? Let's tell people to write my name in. Let's see what kind of traction it gets. I then went and I got 500 write-ins. 500 votes on a write-in. Now you tell me one person in this county that could run for sheriff and get that kind of support. Tell me one person who could run for sheriff like that and get 500 write-ins besides me. Nobody. Nobody could do it. Okay? And the write-ins, after Smith, the incumbent, after the race, that night of the Putnam County sheriff race, it was in November of 2017, right? And my team and I, we didn't get together at all. We stayed in touch by text, and I saw that that the incumbent had lost by 300 and something signatures. And at the time, 300 something votes. And I believe at the time I had about 400, a little more, write-in votes. Okay. And that night, when it's all done, after everything's said and done, late at night, they go to the Villa Barone, or the Republican Party goes to the Villa Barone. They're changing it up, but year after year, that night they went to the Villa, and so I got a phone call that night, and I was taking out the garbage. Actually, I remember this now. I'm just trying to get back, trying to remember what happened, the sequence here to get it right. I was home, right? I had already gotten home, and I got a text from a local reporter, and he says to me, Andrew, I'd like to call you if I can. I don't want to quote. I'll be doing a story next week. He said, but I'd like to call you. I want to talk to you about something. Can I call you? And it was about midnight, and I said, yeah, sure. I said, I'm just taking out the garbage. So he calls me, and he says, yeah, I was at the Villa Barone tonight. Got home a little while ago, and he said, he goes, wow, it was a real funeral parlor over there. And that was the word that he used, funeral parlor. He said it was really like depressing. He said people were very impressed with the numbers that you pulled, and at the time, like I said, it was about 400, 420 maybe. And he said, I've never seen anything like that. Like, I've never imagined somebody could get 400 something. And it turned out the number became almost 500, like 490 something. 428 officially, and then about 490 something. There was like 60 something votes. Initially, I thought they were for other people. They weren't. They were for me. But they were like, they spelled my name wrong. They went over the line, stuff like that. They were invalidated, but they were my votes. So so the reporter tells me, yeah, he says it was a funeral parlor in there. He said people were very, very impressed with the amount of support you got, the amount of votes you got. He said, but he said, you know that the elections commissioner got up and he called you a scumbag. The Putnam County Elections Commissioner got in front of 50 people, 70 people, whatever, and referred. I wasn't there, obviously, or else it never would have gotten said. And called me a scumbag. A scumbag. Okay. This is a guy who throws out my petitions unlawfully, playing petition games, all to protect his candidate to do one more term, so that they can appoint, their boy as the undersheriff and then get him to run as sheriff in 2021. And because I don't go along with it, I'm a scumbag. Well, I got different definitions of scumbag. I would never call another man a scumbag, especially when he's not present. Okay. But you know what? You scam and you lose, and you lost. So, but that's really. And then the next week was when the quotes in the newspaper came out, and it's funny because I had said, I think it's very, very unethical that the taxpayer has to foot the bill for this elections lawyer you guys are spending, because this was not in furtherance of the voters. This was not in furtherance of the Board of Elections. That lawyer was doing the work of the elections commissioner. I mean, of the county. Well, he's got all these conflicting jobs. That's why he shouldn't have all these jobs. He was doing that lawyer, that elections lawyer, was doing the work of the county Republican chairman, not as his other job as the commissioner. No way. That's a different standard. That elections lawyer was doing the work of the Republican committee. The committee should have paid for that attorney. Okay, so one thing I did want to mention was at the New York State Court of Appeals, when the guy came out and he said that the Court of Appeals will not be hearing any cases today, and everyone was dismissed. It was over so fast. It was like that Jim Borkowski was there. Jim Borkowski was the chairman of the Putnam County Democrat Committee. He was there because his name had been on the original challenge. He was the one I was suing, so he showed up to the to the New York State Court of Appeals. So anyway, he didn't know what happened. The crowd starts breaking up. The crowd of lawyers and people, they start breaking up, and Borkowski comes forward, and I said, "Well, it's over." He didn't know what happened. I told him, "Well, it's over. They announced they're not going to hear any cases, so that's it. I lost, right?" So I shook hands. Congratulations. Listen, I'm not a sore loser. I got played. I got scammed by the elections commissioner, but I got my just desserts. And so I was talking to Jim Borkowski again. Jim is the Republican. He was the Putnam County Democrat commissioner. Okay, the commissioner, the chairman. He's the chairman of the Putnam County Democrat Party, Democrat Committee, Democrat Party, Democrat. Okay. Now the decision to not hear any cases, all the dismissals, just came down 90 seconds ago. Just came down. I'm talking to Democrat Chairman Jim Borkowski. His phone starts buzzing. He looks at it. He goes, "It's Bob Buckley." I said, "Bob Buckley?" And I said, "You know him? You're friends with him?" "Not particularly." So I laughed. I said, "Answer the phone." So he he answers it, and he's like, "Who's this?" "Yeah, it's Bob Buckley." I heard every word. Okay, I heard every word. Bob has one of those booming voices. Listen, I have respect for Bob. I believe he has respect for me. I did not expect what happened to happen. I did not expect it. Bob Buckley called up the chairman of the Putnam County Democrat Committee to thank him for hurting another Republican. He called him to thank him for his assistance in, in helping to destroy me. 90 seconds ago, the decision came down. And he's calling up the chairman of the Putnam County Democrat Committee, thanking him for the role that he played. Thanking him for the role that he played in hurting a Republican. And yet there's people here in this county that want to talk to me about Republican loyalty? I mean, I hope you're joking. I hope you're joking. I got to tell you, I wasn't surprised. I felt betrayed. Okay? When I heard that phone call, and I heard every word of it, I felt betrayed. Okay? Because that's not something that you do. You don't do that. So in any event, we ran, we won. We got like 500 write-in votes, which was great. And what makes me laugh is that there was actually a couple of people of not too high IQ who actually thought that I cost the incumbent the race. I did not cost him a single vote. You would have to be a falling down moron, okay? A falling down moron to think that I cost the incumbent a single vote. You have two choices here, okay? You can either take the Sharpie and fill in the little circle next to the incumbent's name, or you can take out a black ballpoint pen, the one that I told you to bring. You can turn the petition sideways like I taught you to do, and then you can write my name in across the lines over 3 to 4 boxes as long as you stay in the same column. Okay, you can stay in the same column and go over the lines. You can't go over the lines horizontally, or else you're in the next race, and then the vote will be invalidated. But on the write-in, if you stay in the same column vertically, you're good. You can go over the lines. You go over as many lines as you want, as long as you don't go over horizontally. Okay? So, like I said, you have a choice. Either someone either took a Sharpie and filled in the little circle next to the incumbent's name, or they took out a black ballpoint pen that I told them to bring. They turned it like I told them to. Then they pulled out my card with my name on it so they could spell it right. People did all that instead of just filling in the little circle? No. Absolutely not. No. Anyone who wrote my name in and went through all that trouble to write it in was because they wanted me as sheriff. They wanted to support me. If somebody didn't support the incumbent, they would either vote for the Democrat or not even come out. My name wasn't on the ballot, so I don't even know how anyone could even claim that I took votes away from some. My name wasn't even on the ballot. If my name wasn't even on the ballot, it wasn't like I was on the ballot on a minor line. That's how you take votes away from people. If your name is on the ballot in a minor line. My name was not on the ballot. Nobody who wrote my name in, not a single one. I foiled them. Not a single one. You physically could not write my name in with a Sharpie, especially the ones the Board of Elections uses. They use the same Sharpies all the time, and they're old, and they have a flat head. The ink would bleed over the line automatically, and then it would be invalidated automatically. So everyone who voted for me used a black ballpoint pen like I told them to bring. And they used the card with my name on it so they could spell my name right. You would have to be a falling down moron to think that I cost even one vote to go away from the incumbent. Never happened. My name wasn't even on the ballot, okay? Your incumbent lost. He never should have run. And it was funny because now for the next 4 years, that's all I heard people saying. Oh, he should have known to walk away, but you supported him. He should have known to hang it up, but you supported him. He should have known when it was time, but you supported him. And then all the bad newspaper stories hurt him. those newspaper stories were true. And they were coming for 2 years. So, um, everything I said was accurate. I felt it was important that I got this message out. Um, Not that it matters. I have long since, gotten over it. I gotten over it the next day. It seems that, someone else hasn't gotten over it, and that's not my problem because I am living quite nicely. Um, I think that, calling someone a scumbag, like that, very classless, But what can you do? I can't do anything. Um, but very important. It was important to me that people know what happened in the 2017 race. Now you know what happened, and you got it here first. In any event, I am Andrew DeStefano, and this is Putnam County Crime Analysis. Hasta la próxima.